another Scout the Defender YouTube video. Today I'm driving over to the normal video spot where I'm going to be answering your guys' questions that you have over on YouTube and over on Instagram. All of those frequent questions that I get asked and are always in my inbox, I'm going to set to aim to answer some of those today. And if you don't already, please go over and follow us on Instagram. We document all of our road trips, all of the modifications over on there too, so be sure to give us a follow, and I'll crack on to the video spot and then I'll start to answer some of your questions. Okay guys, so I've come to my favourite filming spot. Most of you will probably notice this if you've watched the videos before, where I thought I'd come up here and answer some of those frequent questions that you guys ask me over on YouTube and over on Instagram. So I'm armed with my phone, with my list of questions that we can go through, and I'll try and tackle some of those most frequent questions. Right, so the first question we have is, any tips on how to secure the sliding windows? So this is something I struggled with on Scout for ages. The windows were rattling within the frames. The first thing I did was change the felt that's actually on the pane itself. That helped a little bit to reduce the amount of rattle of the window within the frame itself. And then the other thing I did online, I saw a hack for getting a cable tie and actually pushing it underneath the window to stop it rattling in the frame. I'll overlay some footage now of what I've done. It's not the most elegant solution by any means, but it has stopped the windows rattling. In terms of security, I guess one way to secure them is to put, like I've got here, this cargo panel on the inside of the window. You can get similar panels for the inside of the windows too. Personally, I don't want to do that because I don't want it to feel too much like a cage in the back, but those are something that you can maybe look into to secure the back windows, because yeah, as you say in the question, they're not the most secure windows fitted to a car. Next question, how is Scout on long trips? So I guess this is quite a broad and open question. I think a lot of people worry when they're about to buy a Defender for the first time about how comfortable and reliable Defender is going to be. I opted for the Puma because I knew we were going to be doing longer drives. So the Puma, the 2.4 is what Scout is, means that you've got the 6 gears. It's a bit quieter on road trips, especially now I've done a lot of the sound deadening. There's still more to do, which will come in a later video. But I generally think that Scout is pretty comfortable on long trips. The Puma XS seats are pretty comfortable. At some point maybe I'd swap out the front seats to the more premium versions that hold you a bit better. But in general, I think that Scout is really comfortable on long drives. I know that, like I say, some of the people that have TD5s or 300 TDIs, perhaps it's a bit louder on the motorway. With the Scout, you've got obviously the Puma engine, the 6 gears. But in general, I would never be put off by buying a Defender, especially for those long trips. Just consider what model you want for the work you want to do with it. Now there's another question related to the long trips, and that is, what MPG does your Defender do? So this varies quite a lot, and it depends whether we've got like the car fully laden with the rooftop tent on. Now on our recent trip to Scotland, I was just keeping an eye on the MPG just for my own peace of mind and curiosity. I think when you buy a Defender, you shouldn't ever really go into it thinking that it's going to be a cheap car to run, because it's not, because of maintenance but also because of fuel costs. In general, I would say Scout averages about 24 miles to the gallon. It actually was doing a bit more on the road up to Scotland. It was probably more like 25, perhaps 26. That was with the rooftop tent on as well, so obviously that adds a considerable amount of weight. The reason I think I'm probably getting the better MPG is we've got a stage 1 remap, which generally improves your fuel efficiency slightly. It's also got the straight through exhaust, and it's also got a stage 1 intercooler, a larger intercooler. So I think all of those factors probably add up to the fact that it's actually getting not a bad MPG for the car it is. I've seen a lot of Defender owners complaining that they're getting 18, 20 miles a gallon. So perhaps some of those upgrades that I've done are contributing to those bigger figures, but that is with a lot of motorway driving, where obviously you're going to get the greater miles per gallon figures. But I don't think that's too bad for the style of car. So the next question we have is, what brand is your rooftop tent? So Scout now has the rooftop tent. I've done a few videos on the rooftop tent now, and if you've seen the road trip Scotland video, you'll have seen we camped out on it for the majority of that trip. The tent is a Vicky Wood Mighty Oak 190, so that means it's a hard shell tent, and it folds out, and it means that it's much quicker to put up and put down, and also means that we can leave it on the car all year round, and it's not going to affect any of the material. That's why we opted for this kind of tent. We were looking around on the market for a while for different tent solutions, and we found that the hard shell ones were probably the best for us, because it means we can just throw it on the truck and leave it on there. We don't have the luxury of space for storing a tent outside of kind of the summer months, so it's a perfect solution for us. It's so quick to put up, it's really easy to use, the material's really good, great quality, and I definitely recommend it to anyone that's looking to check out rooftop tents. We're going to be at a few of the Land Rover shows this year, so be sure to come over and you can check them out on the stand. So yeah, that is the Vicky Wood Mighty Oak 190. The guys at ORE supplied that, and it's a great piece of kit, and I definitely recommend looking into the Vicky Wood brand if you're looking for a rooftop tent. They've got lots of different variants and styles depending on what you're after for a tent. Right, on to the next question, which is, it's a big one. What is your favourite upgrade to Scout? So this is really tricky, because I think that all the work we've done is almost like the sum of its parts is where we've got Scout to where we wanted it to be. I think there's a few things, like if you break it down visually, I think that all of the lighting upgrades that we've done give Scout a bit more of an interesting and I guess unique appearance. So whether that's the cross spotlights, which I'm going to do a video on shortly, or whether it's the cranked DRL, which is a little bit different to other things that you see on the market with the DRLs in it. I think that looks really cool. I think from a performance upgrades perspective, the engine remap has made it much more easy to daily and to drive longer distances, especially with that increase in the MPG, and also the bigger intercooler for etc. has made it much easier to drive on a daily basis and give us a bit more performance. And of course the rooftop tent as well. I know, although that's not a strict I guess Defender upgrade, you could put them on any vehicle. It's given us so much more opportunity to just throw sleeping bags in the back of the truck and drive and go and camp. So that's been a massive, I guess, improvement to the way we live with the Defender. So I guess it's a mixture of all sorts. There's not one thing that I could point to that's my favourite, but there's lots of small things that we've done to Scout to just generally improve how we use the car, and we're really happy with where it's at now. And there's not lots of stuff now that we look at and we want to fit. There's small minor improvements here and there, but yeah, we're really happy with where Scout is today. So the next question, although I say that we're really happy with where Scout is, there's a few things that are always kind of in the back of my mind that I want to do to Scout. The first thing is going to be happening in a video fairly soon. We're going to be fitting the ORE rear NAS step. It's something that when I was even looking to buy Defender, the Defenders that had the rear NAS step, I was always thinking, oh, that's quite cool. It stops at the moment. We've got that clunky fold down step, which just isn't great. It's getting all rotten and horrible. So we're going to be replacing that with the ORE NAS rear step. So that'll be in a video in the next few weeks, I think. So I'm really excited to fit that. We're also going to be removing the tow bar setup that I'm actually standing on at the moment. We don't use it, we don't tow anything. The only thing that it does is get in the way when we're off-roading. So when I was in the Elan Valley with Chris and Jack, or Boris the Defender, I was finding that when we were going down like rock drops, it was crashing and banging and like grounding the car out. It's a real clunky big tow bar. We just don't have any use for it at all. So we're going to be removing that as part of installing the rear step. So that's the next modification to come, and obviously I'll document that and show you guys all of the install and the fitting of that. So that's the next thing. I don't think Scout will ever be finished, but I think there's a few bits and pieces to really finish Scout off. But yeah, really happy with where it's at. Now the next question is Scout your first Defender? Yes, Scout is the first Defender. When I passed my test, I had a little Clio, and then for a while I lived away, so I didn't necessarily need a car. But the craving, and I've always wanted a Defender ever since I was pretty small, so the craving for a Defender finally got the better of me, and before lockdown, just before we went into lockdown, I bought Scout. I could see prices were starting to climb, and I didn't want to be priced out of ever being able to own one, so I just bit the bullet and bought it. And I get lots of questions often on Instagram, people asking, you know, what do you look for in your first Defender? Are there any watch outs? And I think I'll probably do a separate video on that, because there are lots of things to consider. My main thing was what I was going to use Scout for. So first of all, nailing the type of Defender that you want, what engine. So TD5, more of the purist Defender. The Puma, a bit more comfortable on longer drives, as we spoke about. So I think the first thing is nailing down what you want to use your Defender for. Obviously there's loads of variants then within even the engine model. So within the Puma, you've got whether you want a 90, the smaller wheelbase, the 110, whether you want whether you want the pickup cab style, whether you want a hard top, whether you want a soft top. There's so many things and so many variants, which I think is why people love Defenders so much. So I think it's trying to nail down what you're going to use the Defender for and then going from there. There's other things also, like if it's got a well-maintained service history. Scout was on quite high mileage when I bought it. It was about 75,000-80,000 miles, which normally I wouldn't ever have considered buying a car with that mileage. But I just ensured that it got a full service history and mechanically it seemed sound. So there's obviously a few watch outs as with all cars, but I definitely recommend, if you're really interested in getting a Defender and you've got the funds available to do it, just do it, because you won't regret it at all. So there was also a few questions around where I get some of the gear from. So in most videos I leave in the description box below a link to where I got the parts from, but there's a few, I guess, pieces of kit that people always ask me, where did I get that from? And they're often some of the smaller things that I wouldn't ever think about, but I can try and answer a few of those for you. So the first one a lot of people ask is, where is the steering wheel from, and also what size wheel is it? So the steering wheel is from Motorlita. I don't think they actually sell the style that I have anymore. It's the dished one with the slots cut out, and it's also wrapped in Alcantara. But that's from Motorlita. They still have loads of options on their website, so check those guys out. On my gear sticks, I have almost like a nod to the heritage style Defenders, where there's like a red and a yellow ring around the gear stick, and this gear stick for changing into high and low range. They're just off eBay. I'll leave a link in the description below, but they're just like a subtle nod to, I guess, a more heritage style Defender, but I think they're quite cool, and they're a bit unique, and they're just 3D clips that you clip around the gear stick. Really easy obviously to fit. I'll leave a link in the description to those, because that's, again, strangely enough, one of those questions that I get asked a lot on Instagram when people see me post pictures of the interior. And then the other thing people have been asking me quite frequently is where I've got the new spotlights from. So the new spotlights have like an X and marker light in them, which look really cool, and they're from the guys at Light Parts. ORE actually supply them. So again, I'll leave a link in the description box below for those, and all of the lights on the truck are basically from those guys. I think the quality is amazing. So whether it's the rear work lights, the headlights, the spotlights, they're all from Light Parts, so check those out. I'll leave a link in the description below to the ORE website. Now the next question is, how do you ensure that Scout is running good at all times and reliable? If you've seen this video, you'll have seen that I have had a few wobbles in terms of mechanicals with Scout. The main one being that it actually needed a head gasket doing, which is real unfortunate and obviously an expensive bill. The main thing is that I regularly get it serviced every year by a garage, but I also do a 6-month service myself, just a lighter service. Mainly I like to have the stamp in the book from a garage if for whatever reason I look to sell Scout, which obviously isn't going to happen anytime soon. But I do, a 6-monthly service myself, change filters, change fluids, and then I do get a full year's service done, a thorough service. That usually picks up on anything, and obviously as it does that, it goes through its MOT too. But the main thing is just being aware that things may go wrong. It's a slightly older vehicle now, so just keeping an eye on the things that wear. I guess I've got a bit of a niggle in my head around some of the engine issues that I had before, so I'm definitely on it more than most. And I think just regularly, keeping an eye on stuff, regularly servicing it, and just keeping an eye on those things that can perish on most cars, but will go quickly on Defenders. And hopefully you should be able to sustain a good run length for the Defender. I think they get a bit of a bad rep online, and yes, things do go wrong, but if you maintain them well enough, they should serve you as well as most of the cars. So don't be put off by that if you're looking to buy your first Defender. The final question is, am I going to be attending any of the shows this year? And that's a definite yes. I'm excited that I'm going to be joining the guys on the ORE stand again at some of the shows this year. The first being Land Rover Live, which is I think the 19th of May. So I'm excited to be at that event, and if you're there, please come over and say hello. I love meeting all the people that follow the videos or follow us on Instagram. You'll be able to see some of the bits that I've fitted to Scout and check them out too. And we'll probably be at a few other shows this year too. I love coming to the shows and meeting everyone, so stay tuned and we'll announce some of the other shows that we're going to be at. So there you have it, guys. That is a quick Q&A that answers hopefully some of those most frequent questions that I'm asked on YouTube. If there's any other questions that I didn't cover, please leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to answer them, and I'll be sure to leave almost all of the modifications that I've done, a link to where I've picked up those products in the description box below. So if there's anything that I've fitted to Scout that I've not covered, I'll be sure to try and leave a link as best as I can in that description box. And I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to be hopefully fitting the new ORE rear step, which I'm really excited for. And then there's a few other exciting announcements that we've got planned. So stay tuned for those, and I'll see you in the next video.